Richmond, 96 double. Hot, hot.
99.7 KRED.
Tell you, man, you leading the league in hydration.
Aurora.
I've eaten burritos bigger than you.
This is Running Wild with Brandon Jackson.
Let's go, guys. It's a game.
And I'm staying in Aurora this week. Feels good to know that for the upcoming game, I don't have to go anywhere. There's no travel. Yeah, this is Brandon Jackson, 99.3 KRED in Aurora. Talking Red Foxes football. How we doing, everybody? We all feeling good? I guess we'll get the bad news out of the way first. Chandler Gaines will be out for at least 3 weeks, could be 4, with a strained back. The injury looked pretty bad. Nothing to be like overly concerned about. It's not like a vertebrae or anything like that. It's just he's having difficulty being able to really straighten himself out and feel comfortable. Like when he's standing tall and trying to throw or anything like that. The pain was noticeable enough. And you know, the medical staff is doing what they can to take care of him. But Mashburn's going to take the cautious approach on this. He's going to give him time, let him heal up, and do what he needs to do. Red Foxes came out losers in this one, 24-45. Good news, scored 3 touchdowns in the game, man, kicked the field goal, most points we scored all season. And it came against a pretty good Mountain West team. And against a potential number 1 draft pick in the future in the NFL, Josh Allen. I mean, sure, they scored 45, but I think the defense was a little bit more consistent in their tackling this week. They obviously honed in on that last week, and it came to fruition. And to only lose by 21 to Wyoming, I think, is quite fine. So there are definitely positives to take away from all this. It's just, you know, where do we go now with Chandler Gaines out? Well, right now, it's looking like the answer is going to be John Hendricks, who did not have a bad game. He actually did very well in relief of Gaines. He spends a lot more time throwing than he does running. He wears a brace on his right knee instead of his left, where quarterbacks normally do, because he's actually had 2 previous injuries to his knee, an ACL tear and a meniscus tear. So that's why he specifically wears it on that one as support. Not really a runner, so it really changes around Mashburn's offense. And this week, they're really kind of honing in. Chandler Gaines is on the sideline, and I talked to him through practice, and he just said, my job right now is just to make sure that we go out there and win. This is a team sport, a team effort. I can't worry about, what my job is going to be when I come back. All I can worry about right now is getting healthy and making sure that we're in the best position to win. So he is working with Kierkegaard as well to help Hendricks be as ready as possible and try to really hammer in some formations that they can do to help move him around and put him in the best positions on offense. And now, Mashburn talked to me about this. It's obviously going to be a lot more limited. There's not going to be crazy audibles going all over the place, but they are going to try to use movement wherever they can to really kind of help the offense get back on track. The other disappointing thing that Mashburn brought up this week was that they got away from the run game because Hendricks is a passer. He's a pocket passer who likes to sit back there and throw. And they figured, okay, the best thing to do is to go more spread, get more wide receivers out there. And Timberlake only got 5 rushes. He's the fastest guy that they have in the backfield. It just makes way more sense to get him involved in there. The other thing that we noticed is that Vernon Winslet is getting a few more carries now. They're actually going to have, because they have Hendricks back there, and Hendricks normally works with Winslet in the backfield, and they haven't really been impressed with what Malik Davidson has been doing. They're actually going to move up Winslet to the 3rd running back spot and try to get him some more carries. He's done a great job on special teams, done a great job returning, and whenever he's gotten in, he's made plays. He's already scored a touchdown in the last game, so they're going to give him some more opportunities to go out there and run along with Timberlake. So that's what's there to look forward to. Again, if you're following online and watching the video there on the website, you can also leave your comments down below. in the comment section for questions for the upcoming week or next week, whether it's about recruiting or the game. I'm going to go over some of yours now. Just give me 1 second here as I pull it up. And we're going to start here. I'm going to scroll through a few. Start with Dean Wendell. By holding their own, at least in the first half against Wyoming, does that mean we could see Aurora contending for the title in most likely the worst conference in the NCAA, the Sun Belt Conference? Run Wild. Hey, Dean, yes, Run Wild indeed. No, I don't think Aurora's contending for the title this year. I think they put up a good fight against Wyoming, but you know, it's not like they beat Wyoming. They still did lose by 21, so it's really tough to say. With an injury to Chandler Gaines, I think Chandler Gaines was the guy that was giving them the best opportunity to win, and maybe Hendricks can be that guy. I think that in this game against Colorado State, there's definitely a possibility that they could close this gap between them and possibly keep it within 10 or 14 points. So if they go into a 2-possession game, then who knows? And I definitely think that's possible, but I'm not holding my breath either. I don't think this is the year Aurora is going to be looking at a conference championship. I think Western Kentucky's really good. They're going to be the ones definitely more than likely winning. So yeah, do they get a top 4 finish? No. I guess when you're saying contending, they're probably going to finish more towards the bottom of the division. Can they win? I think they can. I think they can probably win a few Sun Belt games this year, and at least get some confidence for these guys. So thanks again for the question, Dean. Let's move on here. Got a question from PSID 412. Hey, Brandon. My name is Peter. Okay, no, there's your real name. And I'm an Aurora fan here in UK, Bristol, England. Nice to see an international fan pop up here. I guess maybe he's a Willoughby Sinclair fan. My question is, what area do you think is the main area Mashburn should look to improve first? I mean, we have seen 2 decent performances against USC and Wyoming, but still, thanks again, and love your show. Run Wild. Yes, Run Wild, Peter. It's got to be defense. I think one of the issues that Mashburn is having is definitely in the secondary. As much as I like Paul Beneventi, I think he's a good tackler. He has not done a great job covering. So you're probably going to see it a lot against Colorado State. They're going to target him a bunch. And it's got to be up to him to start being more aware in the secondary and start making plays. Because I mean, that's how teams are going to run it up against you. I don't think Dante Devine is as much of a liability. Devine still hasn't made a play yet where it's like, he's a huge interception or anything like that. He's going to be due at some point, but I'm going to be watching a lot at what Beneventi's doing. That and the safety support that he's getting as well, because they're just getting killed in the passing game. Every week it's been just a field day. In the passing game, and runners haven't. I mean, you had Ronald Jones going crazy on us at USC, but it was really just Max going back there, Max Brown just going back there and killing us in the passing game. So I think that's one area, and I think the second area is going to be. I'm going to go defense again. I think the offense is getting it together. They haven't done it yet. It's not perfect, but the offense at least is showing signs of life. I think they're going to need to improve rushing and getting pressure on the quarterback, because if the secondary is not going to do it, you're going to have to make the quarterback make a decision fast somehow. And I think that front 3 and then the outside linebackers are definitely going to need to get more pressure up front. So thanks for the question, Peter. Let's move on here. This one is Jake McCall. If the Red Foxes lose... Oh, I see. He edited something here. I feel Hendricks and the team played really well. Do you feel like Hendricks will get the start against Colorado State? They moved the ball well and even put up points. Thanks, and Run Wild all the way from 225. The 225, that's got to be somewhere near Louisiana. I've been to New Orleans once, and that's kind of where I remember that area code kind of showing up. So he's somewhere in Louisiana is what I'm guessing. Well, yes, Hendricks is actually going to get the start against Colorado State. That's confirmed. He will be starting. There may be some back and forth with him and Leventhal, but it seems like Mashburn is committed to actually playing Hendricks as the true quarterback this week. I think that pretty much answers the question. Is Hendricks will be running the offense. I think that you're absolutely right that they did move the ball well, but I think that they also need to get back to the running game and get that thing going. The run game is really good for them. And I know that without Gaines there, that changes a lot. And the dynamic of everything, because it's mostly just going to be handoffs now. But we'll see how it goes. All right, next question here is from, what is this? Bouncing Like Vaughn. So maybe he's a Von Miller fan. Maybe he's actually here in Colorado. Brandon, who is your favorite recruit out of Colorado that Coach Mashburn is going after that you believe can change Aurora if they came here? Run Wild, yes, and Run Wild. I know that he's considered a lower recruit, but I am still a huge fan of Paul Phillips, and I think that you need a guy in the backfield who has a lot of speed. And that's not to say that, Timberlake can accelerate and get yardage the way that he pretty much has all year. But you're going to see a dynamic difference if Paul Phillips ends up here from him and Timberlake. Paul Phillips has insane speed. He has track star speed. So he's definitely a guy that I think if he got here right away, even though he may have some issues breaking tackles or whatnot, if he can get to the outside and break free, he's going to create some big plays immediately for this team and create a new dynamic. Other than him, I'm guessing maybe someone like a DJ Smith or a Darian Bowles, a wide receiver who has some speed and can make plays as well. Could be that kind of guy. But my eye is always going to be on Paul Phillips. I think if he gets here, he's going to be the guy to make the big difference. And we'll take one more question here. This one coming from Woobaloo. Lulu. It's like two U's at the end there. Don't mind me. Hey Brandon, got a couple of questions for you. I wasn't ready for that. On Mashburn. One, what type of recruits does Mashburn like or prefer? What prospects is Mashburn eyeing? Does he prefer Ironman athletes or whoa? This is a lot. Wasn't ready for that. Okay. So basically the gist of it is he's asking what type of or she, I'm not really sure. What type of defensive players is he looking for in terms of athletes? So he's definitely looking for pass rushers on the outside. Pass rushers on the outside, and at least on the weak side of inside linebackers, he wants a guy who can play coverage. So I think more than anything, I think he feels comfortable with the three that he has up front. I think he would rather have two guys on the outside that can really rush, and I think that's what he's going after in recruiting as well. In terms of just overall, he wants speed and talent. So he's looking for guys who can potentially make plays and make big gains for them on offense, and then on defense, he wants guys who can cover and disrupt in the backfield once they get back there. And then question number 2. After Johan Mondraso's 642-yard game, it was still nuts to see him do that. Is Mashburn looking at Mondraso? I would assume a couple 1 to 2-star colleges are looking at him now. Is Mashburn looking to recruit him or hoping he walks on? Go Aurora and Run Wild. Mondraso is only a junior. So it's kind of hard to say that, right now what exactly Mashburn's doing. He's definitely seen the tape and has been impressed. And considering that by the time, if Mondraso were to come to this school, Gaines would be a senior, so it would definitely be an investment that I think he'd look at. Who knows? I haven't really asked him any questions on Mondraso yet, so, it's a tough call there. I definitely look into him. He definitely has a lot of poise, and I think that he would work in this offense. But I know that the second he's a senior, everybody's just bum rushing him if he hasn't already been contacted already, and I imagine that he has. All right, we'll get back. Speaking of recruits, we'll get back to that right after the break here, going a bit more depth into high school and then recruiting this week. You're listening to 99.3 KRED in Aurora. Be right back. 99.3 KRED in Aurora, Colorado. This is Brandon Jackson for Running Wild. We're going to go ahead and just jump into some recruiting here and talk about who thus far has Aurora as their top school. And going down the list, one of my favorite recruits from this particular recruiting class, Paul Phillips, has Aurora number 1 with Air Force just behind them and Wyoming behind them as well. Has taken over as the number 1 school, and the lead is certainly starting to expand a lot. They're the only school that is offered to Paul. So maybe this is one that they can wrap up here, get some real speed in the backfield. Maybe Paul's a guy who ends up starting day 1 once he gets there. Maybe not over Timberlake, but maybe in the backfield with him. Then Chuck Oferije has now made Aurora his number 1 school. DJ Smith, number 1 school, Aurora. Michael Ecker, the guard, number 1 school, Aurora. Charles Clark, another guard, number 1 school, Aurora. Cade Montgomery, Atticus Wynn, Jamarcus Johnston, all have Aurora as their number 1 school. So we're already looking at a defensive tackle coming in, strong safety, 2 wide receivers, 2 guards, tight end, and a running back, at least coming in a part of this class, as long as Mashburn stays aggressive and stays on them and make sure that they come in. You still have guard Vincent Williams in the mix, not too far off from Kansas State, who Aurora is currently in a battle with. It seems almost neck and neck, but Kansas State just has a bit of a lead as the number 1 school. Then Darian Bowles, it seems like it may be getting a bit too hard for Mashburn to get him. They're behind Utah and Brigham Young, so somehow the state of Utah is shoving Aurora out of this. But the only 2 who have gone ahead and given them a scholarship thus far is Utah and Aurora. So who knows? Anything could happen here in that race for Darian Bowles. You have Mike Hayes as well, the quarterback, that it seems like is on the top of Mashburn's list for this year. Not too far away from Colorado State and Colorado. Now, here's the thing to note with Colorado State. Colorado State is starting Nick Stevens, but they have a special guy back there. DJ Hawkins, all the way from North Carolina, got into a drug-related issue while he was there at his high school with marijuana, just possession of marijuana, and they brought him over to Colorado State when his family moved out here, and is currently a freshman there at Colorado State. Now, they're not sure when he's going to start playing. It may not be this year. It may end up being next year. But if they are really looking at Mike Hayes, they're going to be logjammed there. So maybe Mike Hayes has started to move up Aurora in his list because of that. But Colorado University, the Buffaloes, are also there in that race. So it's going to be a tight one between the 3 schools in Colorado. Then you also have Noah Baldwin. Aurora is moving up his list. Another in-state fight. It's Colorado State and Colorado right there with them. Wyoming is who Aurora has jumped this week. That's another winnable one. A middle linebacker there. They got to fight hard and see if they can get him. You got Dylan Sherville. They're starting to pick up some gain there on him. It's another in-state battle between Colorado State, Colorado, and then Mashburn's old school, Wyoming. If they can keep the pressure on, maybe they can pull in Sherville as well, as Colorado State is the only school that has offered him a scholarship, as well as Aurora. If we're looking for a kicker, they're looking at Andy Rooker, and it's just between Aurora and Colorado at this point. Colorado seems way ahead. They've already offered a trip for Rooker to come in and watch the game in Week 13. So that may be out of sight for them. And then a lot of people ask questions about the quarterback TJ Henson in the comments. That seems like a ship that has long sailed. Mashburn tried what he could to try to bring him in. They already have 2 scholarships out at Central Michigan and Iowa, over 2 schools pulling him. You also got Navy, Georgia Tech, and Maryland in this battle. And TJ Henderson just not finding any interest at all in Aurora. So that may be one they give up on there. And then the only other notable prospect that I can think of is Victor Oyewole, the strong safety from Colorado Springs. They're in a battle there with Kansas. Can they kind of close the gap there, maybe make this competitive with them, as Arizona and Kansas are the only other 2 schools that have offered him a scholarship? We'll see. That's what's going on right now with recruiting. Let's go ahead and jump into the high school games that happened this week and our feature of the week. It was the Aspen Rams coming in against my alma mater, the Aurora Warriors, for their game. Aspen, the favorites to win the state championship this year, at least in my opinion and in many others' opinion around the state. They have quite a stacked defense this year with junior cornerback Zion Meadows, senior defensive tackle Jamarcus Johnson, who is on Mashburn's list and has Mashburn as his number 1 school. I apologize, not Mashburn, Aurora as his number 1 school. And also the Jones-Carter brothers, Rogue Jones-Carter playing at defensive end, and at left tackle, Jordan Jones-Carter. Aurora did not get a lot of offense in this one. Really kind of slow, at least in terms of like major production. Most to note here was Jules Chesnau, who came over from France not too long ago to come over here to America. Had 9 rushes for 35 yards and a touchdown, but it was all about how much Aspen's defense absolutely disrupted everything Aurora wanted to do. There were plays in which they would only rush 3, and it was just Johnston and Jones-Carter, and they would still have to put in 7 guys to try to block all of them. A lot of blitzes, a lot of disruption. Aspen took a 27-10 lead going into the 4th quarter. Aurora was able to fight back and get 2 late touchdowns, including quite an amazing throw towards the end, in the back of the end zone, to close that gap to 27-24. Aspen would recover the onside kick and hang on in this one. A really good defensive showing for Aspen, but a great fight towards the end. A little desperate, but still a great fight out of Aurora, as they ended up taking the loss 27-24. Also of note, a huge performance by the number 1 receiver in Colorado, Darian Bowles, at a Greeley High. They're rocking the pink in the end zone all year, as they started last year with the coach's mother passing away due to breast cancer. They will wear pink during October to represent the fight against breast cancer. And Darian Bowles just absolutely put on a show in this one. 13 receptions, 321 yards, 3 TDs, an amazing one-handed catch over the middle. Showed some great footwork along the sidelines as they wore the purple and pink today. Darian Bowles helped Greeley to a 62-35 win over Boulder. Should be worth noting, Karuge Kanage had 17 rushes, 33 yards, a touchdown in that one as well. Across Colorado, St. Joseph's defeated Littleton 35-3 in a huge squash. Littleton, who had quite the showing last week, only put up 3 due to an injury to Johan Mondrasso. He went 5 for 6 for 32 yards before he got injured, and the backup quarterback threw 5 interceptions. One of those, the free safety Charlie Morgan, who returned it to the house. 4 tackles, an interception, and a TD return for him. Wide receiver, senior Rylan Kaiser, 3 receptions, 54 yards. Not interested at all in talking to Aurora or even going there. Also, Denver took on Durango. Durango snuck this one out in overtime, 30-27. Mike Hayes did not look great in this. 12 for 40, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns. DJ Smith, however, the wide receiver, 6 receptions, 112 yards, 2 TDs. He's got Aurora number 1 on his list. And Dylan Shervill, the defensive end for Denver, 9 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Sunrise took on Colorado Springs and won 16-10. Robert Watson, the running back, the power back there, 15 rushes for 74 yards. And Cade Montgomery, 3 receptions, 46 yards. The senior there, also interested in Aurora. And for Colorado Springs, Victor Oyole had 7 tackles and 2 of them for a loss. And then Bryson Hill went 15 for 34, 186 yards, 12 rushes, 51 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And lastly, Pueblo went up against Moore. Paul Phillips didn't have quite as great of a showing as he had against Littleton. 17 rushes, 60 yards, and a touchdown. As they lost to Moore 35-28. TJ Henderson, 14 for 25, 241 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 10 rushes for 35 yards. And then wide receiver Dan Pierce, another wide receiver shutting out Aurora, surprisingly. 4 receptions, 134 yards, and a touchdown. That will wrap up the high school portion of this, and we'll be looking into seeing what Colorado State does next year. I don't think we're going to see any of DJ Hawkins. It's actually funny. We another kid from that area, Cyrus Flynn, was supposed to be playing for USC in that game and ended up not playing, but he's been showing up for USC for the rest of the year thus far. Maybe we'll get to see DJ next year, but I'll definitely be looking forward to the game against the Rams. And I hope you'll be joining me for that as well. This is 99.3 FM, KRED, and Aurora. I will see you for the game.